Hello, hello. So this evening we will be talking about beyond the degrees, love, money, and what actually matters. So it is me and Dr. Jamie again. So Dr. Jamie, tell the people a little bit about who you are.
A little bit about myself. So, my name is Dr. Jamie Bryant. I am a serial entrepreneur. My primary thing that I'm doing right now is I'm an investor and I invest in real estate and in businesses. But I also help others, especially healthcare entrepreneurs who are looking to exit from their current business. So, to plan their journey from what they're currently doing to what it is that they want to do to have their money making money for them. So that's a little bit
Right.
about me. Been in business for, let's see, it's 2026 now, so lots of years, probably about 13 years in different businesses. I've owned multiple ones, I've sold, I've bought. So now I'm just helping others do the same thing.
I love it. So my name
Mhm.
is Dr. V, and we teach nurses how to work from their computers anywhere around the world, making money, owning their own time, building profitable nurse coaching, consulting, and service-based businesses. And so tonight we're going to be talking about just beyond the degree, a little bit off topic of what we normally talk about, just because these are the deeper things that really kind of matter. And I'll tell you a story. I have this physician that I used to work for, and it's going to be a heavy story at first, but then we're going to get into some lighter things as we go on. But he was he was like this good looking doctor. He was, just the greatest guy. Would get into the emergency department, would take care of the patients. We had the greatest time. And he ended up getting a glioblastoma.
Mm.
And this was years and years later. And the way that I knew him, first of all, he was super nice, but his wife would pass because by then I was broke as a joke, couldn't figure out anything, right? And his wife would pass down her children's clothes to us, right? And he ended up getting the glioblastoma. Well, his wife has had also had her father had passed away, and
Mm.
then her mother-in-law passed away, and then her husband passed away, and then just recently there was some sort of accident with her son who had just went through law school,
Mm.
um, some type of shooting accident, and he passed away. So they had two kids, and it was just crazy. And one of the things that I realized during that time is that which I've always known that is super important for you to like you gonna make the money, right? If you make the money, but it's really important for you to be there, for your family. So, my daughter called me today and she was like, well, do you want to be at field day tomorrow, right, with the kids? And I was like, yes, absolutely. And so I blocked off my calendar. And I think that's one of the good things about, being a nurse entrepreneur is that you have the opportunity to block off your calendar so that you can be there for the kids and that you can do the things that you would like to do as opposed to the things that you don't want to do. What do you think about that?
I think you bring up a good point because in entrepreneurship, and especially depending on what type of business you're running, but as you start to grow, whatever business you're running, you have more freedom, right? In the
Mhm.
beginning, it's hard because you start the business for the freedom, right? But but you have to put in the work in the beginning. And so that creates stress in your family life and if you're still working, all of that stuff. But once you get through that period, it allows you the freedom and the flexibility to be there for your family in a way that you couldn't be if you worked a traditional role. Because when you work a traditional job, whether you're working 12-hour shifts, 9 to 5, whatever, 7 to 3, whatever you're working, you're on somebody else's time all the time. And so
Right.
having that freedom to be able to spend time with your family, that's what it's really about, right? That's the thing that it's really about. You create this job for yourself because being an entrepreneur, yeah, you own a business, but in the beginning it's another job. So you're creating this job for yourself and you work yourself up to a point where you can have that freedom. If you can do it when your kids are little or younger, man, let me tell you, because for me, obviously my son is older. He's 23. And even though I was an entrepreneur when he was younger, I also worked. So I wasn't the nurse that was picking up extra shifts and doing this and that. I worked my shifts and I had my business, right? But I was still constantly busy. Not to say that I didn't spend time with him. I was at all the games, I was at all the concerts, the orchestra concerts and things of that nature, but it was still hard on me personally. But now here we are, he's a young adult and we just get to hang out and we enjoy spending time together. Yesterday, we were just like riding around, going places, this just, doing a whole lot of nothing, but being together. And so, and so having that opportunity, like I wish I would have been able to have that opportunity sooner, but now that we do, it's such a joy. You can't
Yeah.
replace that. You can replace money. Like you said, the money can be made. You can replace money, but you can't replace that time that you get to spend with your family.
Yes, and that's what entrepreneurship, in my opinion, that's what it has, afforded me to be able to do is to spend time, with the people that I love when I want to do it, right? On my own dime,
Yep.
like not saying that I
Mhm.
can't do this or I can't do that, blocking off the calendar and saying that this is where you want to go. Now let's get into something a little bit spicier. You ready for that? All right.
I want to bring something up. Speaking about getting into entrepreneurship and having that freedom, the exact moment when I knew, right? Because I was on track to be the CEO of a hospital. I've got my MBA. I've got, I worked director of quality infection prevention. I was on track to be the CEO of a hospital, but in our hospital, leadership had meetings every Thursday. And our
Mhm,
CEO had just come back from having back surgery.
mhm,
Whenever she was supposed to be recovering, she was on the phone on our meetings, right? But by the time
mhm,
she actually came back, because she had been out because she had back surgery, her family had planned a trip to go to Italy or somewhere like that, but she
mhm,
couldn't go. She had been out for so long for back surgery. And so, anyway, we were in our leadership meeting, and her son called her. And in the middle of the meeting, she was like, I'm really sorry, guys, but because of the time difference, she was like, I haven't been able to connect with him. I'm going to take this call. And we are just like, okay, whatever. She's a CEO. She can do whatever she wants. It's not like we can tell her, you have to pay us some attention. So she's like, I'm going to take this call. So she takes her phone, she answers the phone, and her son is there, and they're FaceTiming each other. And she's like talking to her grandkids, and she's like, oh, I miss you guys so much. Oh, blah, 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 blah. And I just remember in that moment, I was sitting there. I'll never forget, I was 35 years old. I'm sitting there and I'm watching this interaction. And it was at that moment that I said, absolutely, I want to be retired by the time I'm 50.
I know that's
Because by
right.
the time grandkids, I don't want to be that person.
Right.
So I need to start doing what I need to do now at 35. Like people joke, people make fun of me because I always say you have to have a 5-year plan. I had a 15-year plan, but you have to at least have a 5-year plan. I had a 15-year plan. I went home that day and I said, what do I need to do to make sure I can retire at 50 so that I can have the freedom to do what I want to do by the time I start having grandkids? And I was able to plan out what I wanted to do, and I was able to retire from working a traditional job, in half the time. So in 7 years, I was able to do that by having it planned out. But I'm saying all this to say, I knew in that exact moment. And so for those of you out there, there's going to be something that happens. There's going to be that epiphany moment that says to you, I don't want my life to look like that. Or I do want my life to look like that. I want to have more control. I don't like what's going on. And when that moment hits you, don't wait. You have to
Right.
start making a plan and starting to figure out how you can achieve whatever it is that you want. Even if you're already working on it, sit down and put the pen to paper because it matters. It matters when you plan it out.
And I love, I love that. And I love that you said don't wait because one of the things that I do know is that whenever you wait, people take over the industry that are less qualified than
Mhm.
you are, have less
Less
experience than you are.
exactly.
And the
Mhm.
reality is that you have to be very, very clear that it is happening every single day, especially
Mm,
in the healthcare industry, because it's such a lucrative industry. And the
exactly.
reality is that we have to understand how to move the needle forward in this industry. Like it
Mhm.
changes the game, it changes
Yep.
your whole entire trajectory of your life
Yep.
whenever you understand how that moves. And so, yeah, I love that. I love that. So now, can we get into the spicier stuff?
Get into it. Let's get into
All
it.
right. So, let me ask you something. What is something that has happened in a relationship that really shook you to your core?
Elaborate on your
Child.
question. Before
So
I,
when
but
you
before I start going left, right, and this, that, and circles, let's bring it down a little bit.
so
We're in a
I'll
relationship,
tell you mine,
business,
and I'll give
or
you my
okay, yeah, you go
example.
first.
So I'll give you my example. So for me, I think the one thing that happened in a relationship, I was dating this guy and he was just super. And people throw around the term narcissistic a lot, right?
Oh my.
And I thought, you know, I really didn't even know what narcissism meant, right?
Mhm.
Until afterwards, because when you're in it, you don't see it. Okay.
Right,
When you're in it,
right,
you're very,
right.
very unclear of what it is. And
Mhm.
so, and then there were things that he told me, like, my psychiatrist said that she doesn't know what to do with me. I was like, well, I mean, if she don't know what to do with you,
Right. How I'm supposed to know what to do with you? This lady's a trained professional.
and so then there was, and then he was just very non you know how psychopaths, they really have like they don't have any feelings towards anything. Like he was
Yes.
really, really close
Oh
to
my
this guy that passed away. And the guy,
God.
like he had no feelings. Like everybody was concerned about him. And he was like, I'm fine. And I was
Oh my
like,
gosh.
how you fine? Right. And it
Mhm.
was that push and that pull. Like he would like be very non-committal. And then I would always want to go back. And then once I started to pull away, then he would pull me back. And it was
Mm.
always that push and that pull. And it ended up being something that I always was on, was always on for, or always wanted to be on for. And it was just one of those things that shook me to my core until I had to get out of it. And then finally it was good after I got out of it.
Mm.
So that's my experience. So what is one thing? And it was I hadn't started the business yet though, but
Mhm.
I was in healthcare. But that
Mhm.
thing, it about took me out for a while. But it was right after I had divorced, right?
Mm.
And so right after I had divorced, then I went through this. And one of my friends, she told me, she said he wouldn't have been able to even get in your stratosphere had it not been for the fact that you were vulnerable. I
That you
said,
were, yep, vulnerable from the divorce.
mhm,
Yep. Mhm.
mhm. So
I think
anything?
for for me, I think being in a relationship with somebody who's in competition with you,
Oh, child. Mm.
that's happened to me. And I thought we were trying to build together, right? So speaking of narcissism, it's like somebody who can play you to the fact that we're doing this together, but this togetherness only lasts if you don't supersede me.
Ooh.
And so that I still think that about that because I was in a relationship with somebody and we were both nurses and we owned property together and we owned a business together. And we were
Hmm.
doing well, doing very well. But once I started advancing in the career, like I got out of bedside and I started working in administration and I started getting high level administration, then that was it. And then so the path that he wanted to take was to become a nurse practitioner, which I knew for a
Mhm.
fact that wasn't the path that I wanted to take because my goal was always, even when I got my nursing degree, my goal was always eventually I want to be a full-time entrepreneur. I'm just going to use this nursing thing as the vessel to do that. So I didn't feel like it was necessary for me to get my NP. I knew I wasn't going to have a practice in that capacity and stay working in it. But he wanted to get his nurse practitioner. And because he didn't get his nurse practitioner fast as I became a director after I got my MBA, and he was still working on his NP, then we had problems. And I really had to sit back and say, like, I don't understand why we're having these problems. I mean, and then I started to realize, like, oh yeah, he doesn't like the fact that I'm succeeding, and I have pushed past, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but I've climbed the ladder faster than what he's doing. And so everything was good as long as I was either even with him on a professional level or a step behind.
Mm-mm.
That's
really, go
as a
ahead.
matter of fact, remember last week when we were talking about, was it last week when we were talking about how many times did you have to take the nursing exam?
Uh-huh.
People who didn't pass on the first time. And I said, I
Uh-huh.
didn't pass on my first time. And I said, I know exactly why. That same person started to argue with me the day that I went to go take the exam in the morning. And so I didn't pass, my mind was not fully 100% where it was supposed to be. Didn't pass. Of course I was devastated because I'm a very like scholastic person as evident by the degrees or whatever, but I'm a very scholastic person. So I was very devastated. But obviously, I went back a couple of weeks and I took it, and I didn't tell him when I was going to take it. Like I didn't tell him when it was scheduled. And so I just went and took it and everything was fine. But yeah, that same person. So yep. Mm-hmm.
So first of all, I would like for everyone to like, share, and comment, follow us on social media. But I think that that's a thing. This is one thing that I'm gonna tell you that is insidious in business, and people don't realize it. But how your relationship goes, that thing will affect your business. And listen, it is very insidious. It's one of those things that you just really don't even understand how it does, but it does. And I always contributed to, because I was teaching my grandsons about percentages, about, because, Melanin Money, they said that, we talked about, I don't know if we talked about it, I'm sure we did, because we always talk about money, but we talked about the fact that instead of teaching the children how to giving them money for chores, you give them money for their learning, for what they learn about money. And so I was teaching my grandson about that, and we were, because he couldn't get the concept because he's 7 years old. Probably hadn't had fractions yet or percentages, right? So I was like, listen, this is the way it is. I said, I said, this is like a pie. I said, do you like pie? He was like, I don't like pie. I was like, boy, this is not the point. That's not the point. Okay.
Squirrel.
I said, okay, imagine it's a cake, okay?
All right. Yeah.
So I was like, this cake, I said, and it's, this is 100% of the cake. And then I start, carving out the 10%. And what happens in your mind is that you're not able to really, really advance beyond where you need to be, because there's this piece of pie that you got focused on something that you don't even need to be focused on, right? I mean, and it's so insidious, and you really don't even understand it, and you really don't even know what. But what happens in your personal life will show up in your business life every single
Oh my gosh,
time.
yes. Yep. That's why, listen, and that's why I'm still single. My friends keep trying to set me up with people, and they're like, what's your criteria? And I'm like, I don't think the criteria that I have now, I don't think it's very strict, but they're non-negotiables. It's like, you have to be kind-hearted. You have to be level-headed, right? Because if you're kind-hearted and level-headed, it doesn't matter what type of disagreement you get in. You can resolve that conflict in a, systematic, streamlined way, right? Kind-hearted, level-headed. You match my drive and you got to match my net worth. Why is that so hard? I didn't say 65. I didn't say abs. I didn't say this. I didn't say, whatever. I'm like, match my drive, match my net worth. That's where everybody's like, oh, I don't know about that. Listen, because while I'm going to take care of you, I could just be over here taking care of me. You know what I'm saying?
But
So
see now, I don't
you
necessarily
don't
agree
get
with
me.
that. I agree with a drive, right? But like the
Hmm.
net worth, I mean, sometimes, I mean, you got a pretty high net worth, so I mean, it's sometimes it's a little bit
It's slim
harder.
pickings. Trust me, I know. I know.
That is
But
hilarious.
so I'm willing to waver a little bit if they're on the path, right? Because I'm still at that
Okay.
age where it's like they may not be there yet.
Okay.
Um, but the other part is I like to get up and go whenever I want. And that doesn't work with a lot of people. A lot of people are still on that grind mode. So I am, that's why I say I'm willing to waver somewhat, because if you're working to achieve, then that's different. If you're
When
complacent,
I
then you won't fly.
One of the things, so when me and my husband got together, or before we got together, there's this lady that came into the hospital. I always tell the story. She came into the hospital, and for all intents and purposes, this lady she was there for me. Okay. That's all she was there for. And she came into the hospital and she said, when you pray, you got to pray in specific. So I prayed for the 5 things. So you need to be all about you, God. You need to be all about me. You need to be good looking, at least at the beginning, and then you need to have a job, and then you need to be good in bed. Those are the 5 things that I prayed for. Okay. And so he meant all of them. Okay. Just so y'all know. All right. But at the same time,
TMI.
because at the end of the day, one of the things that you have to understand is that, you got to pray in specifics whenever it comes to whoever your partner is, and whoever that person is, and that drive is huge, right?
It
Having
is
that
huge.
drive to achieve, having that drive to succeed, that's huge, huge, huge. And really, really knowing that at the end of the day, it is you two that's most important,
Yep.
right? I think that that's
Yep.
the one thing that has been our driving force and has helped us. Because, like, and my husband does it well, because I'm the type that if I get mad, I ain't gonna talk to you. Okay. It's just I struggle. All right. So, but he does it well. Whereas even if he's upset about something, or we have a disagreement about something,
Mhm.
he always kisses me on the forehead before he leaves.
Mhm.
And I think that that's the
Mhm.
one thing, that's the one driver that has really, really helped us, because I don't know what it is about it, but it literally decreases everything. And so for me,
Mhm.
I always kiss him on the forehead before I leave, right? And
Mhm.
that just takes down that wall. I don't know what it is. It's the touch, it's the feel, whatever it is,
Mhm.
it takes down that wall. And another thing that I know about this too is that I used to always think that love was a feeling. And the reality is that love is not a feeling, it's an action.
It's an
And
action.
when you
Yeah.
look at it in that way, it really changes the game, because you ain't always gonna feel like you love this person.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Hmm.
But you have to always, always do that for sure.
I
So
love that you
that
guys. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, I love that you guys make it a point, right? And so, like when I said being kind hearted and level headed, it shows to me that regardless of what it is you guys are going through, you want to make sure, like you said, you're always going to put each other first. You may be mad at him, he may be mad at you, but it's like, but I don't like you right now, but I still love you. You're still my till the end person,
Right.
right? I don't appreciate what you just did, but I still love you. And on the flip side of that, I always think of it like this. You never know when the last time you're going to have a conversation or
Oh,
see
child.
somebody, right? And so that's your person. That's your
Right.
person for the rest of your life. And so even though you're allowed to feel those feelings of unappreciated or anger or whatever it is, but at the same time, don't don't leave that person feeling like the last words that they said were ill-willed, or the last feeling that you got from them was something negative, but just that sense of comfort, like, yeah, I don't like you, but I still love you, so we still here, we still good. That
Yeah.
reassurance really matters.
It's incredibly important, because if that happens, like you end up in that space where that person passes away or something happens in the emergency department, one of the things that was very clear for me is how sudden those times can happen. I mean,
Yep.
they can happen in a blink of an eye. And
Mm-hmm.
when they happen in that blink of that eye, like your whole world changes. Your
Mm-hmm.
entire world changes. And you, if you do leave it like that, then you are spent with time trying to forgive yourself. And I think that sometimes the hardest person to forgive is yourself, you know,
Is yourself.
because
Yep.
you're the one that did the
Mm-hmm.
thing, right?
Yep.
You're
Exactly.
like, what were
Exactly.
you thinking?
Mm-hmm.
So I honestly think that that is rough.
Yeah.
So what is the biggest thing that you gave up for becoming an entrepreneur, and was it worth it?
Hmm. I think this isn't really about relationships specifically. Are you asking about relationship or just what was the biggest thing
And just the
in
biggest thing
general?
in general,
Um,
and
a safety net of having a paycheck,
which is not a safety
was-
net, but go ahead.
which is not a safety net, but they teach you that, right? It's a mindset.
Right,
But
right.
that safety net of having a paycheck, and the answer to answer your question, was it worth it? Oh, absolutely, 1000%.
Absolutely.
Absolutely,
Absolutely.
1000%. Yeah, because remember, I had a business and worked. So
Mm,
even throughout majority of the time that I was, a new business owner, majority of the time that I had my business, I still worked. And I worked in a position where I was making a good salary, well over, the bottom line of six figures. So that safety net of having that steady paycheck when I was like, I'm done. I'm not gonna do this anymore. It wasn't because I had made an excellent number amount of money. It was because I should have done it sooner, but I was being hard-headed and not listening to the sign that the Lord was sending me. So I was like, okay, I see you and I hear you now. You've shown me, and it's time. So yeah.
One of the things I like how you say the signs that the Lord sent you, because for me, the signs that the Lord sent me, sometimes He has to send it to me twice. He knows that, I don't listen the first time.
Hmm.
And so He has
Yep.
to send it to me twice. And
Me
once He
too.
sends me something twice, it's a wrap. Okay. I'm going to
Hmm.
get that done because I know that the Lord has sent it to me and He has said, this is what you need to do. Just like the thing that I sent you the other day about the multi room, like renting the multi rooms
Oh,
out. Like
yep.
God sent that thing to me twice,
Yeah.
right? From two different, completely different sources. And I was like,
Hmm.
okay, okay, let's figure
Yep.
this out. Let's see how we can get this worked out.
Yeah, I'm a
Now,
little hard-headed sometimes. It takes me a couple times. Like the first time, I'm like, I don't know. You sure about this? And the second time, okay, okay, I heard you. I heard you. Why does it have to be such a hard lesson? Oh, because I was being hard-headed. Okay, I got you.
yeah, he definitely will be like, okay, let's uproot you here. Okay. Yeah,
Mm,
like
right.
so now what do you
Hmm.
believe about love
Listen,
that turned
snake
out to be
gotcha.
wrong?
Say that again.
Did you hear me? What do you believe about love that
What did you
turned out to
say?
be wrong? What did you believe about love that turned out to be wrong?
That love conquers all. Love conquers all.
X.
I mean, that's just the reality of it because there's so much more to a successful relationship than just loving each other.
Facts. Facts.
Hmm.
Facts. So much it's a lot of compromise. It's a lot of seeing things in that other person's shoes, right? Kind of just sitting in their shoes and really
Yep.
understanding where they're coming from and understanding their background too. Um,
Hmm.
it
Exactly.
it, it can be it's just a little bit different when you understand who that person is. And my husband, one of the things that and listen, I tell people all the time, I hit the doggone husband jackpot. Okay. All right. I ain't even gonna lie. The bomb.com. Because, at the end of the day, he's just very accommodating to all that we have going on. And we've got a lot. I mean, we're traveling a lot. We've got
Mhm.
clients that we take care of. It's a big, big business. And then we've got the real estate, and then we've got the children. We've got five of them, and we've got eight grandchildren. And it's a lot. And talking to them every day and making sure that they're good. So
Mhm.
between us, you know, we just have to be. And I think one of the things that, because I'm the one who's the like, I have all these ideas and I'm just all over the place and I'm just go, 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 go. And I'm more of the hothead, right? And he's more of the calm and collected. And I think that takes that combination in order to really
Yep.
work.
Yep.
Because if
Yes, you
you
have,
opposites definitely attract.
yeah. And you have to sacrifice. You have to sacrifice every day. And I know people think it's a cliche, but if you weren't married, you would just go off and do whatever it is that you want all the time, right? Like, oh, I'm not married, I can just do whatever I want, right? That's the mentality. So you make sacrifices every single day for that person. Yeah, maybe I want to go spend this money and buy this $1 million piece of property, but then you have to sacrifice wanting to do that to have the conversation and talk it through with your loved one. Not to say that that's a bad thing. I don't want people to take this like I'm saying that sacrifice is a bad thing, but that's just part of being in a healthy, successful relationship. Just like owning a healthy, successful business, it comes with sacrifices. We can't just be running around in this world just doing whatever the heck we want and thinking that everything's going to work out all the time. You know, um, you have to take a step back and think about things. And so having that person who you trust and who can talk it through with you in the way that you understand and you will receive, having that person to say, you know what, actually, yeah, I do think this is a good idea. Or tell me exactly why you think this is a good idea. Because I'm not feeling this, but let's talk through it, right? That's so important. It's just so important to have that person that you can come to about anything.
And I think that that's a really good point because, like, when I made my first investment in coaching, right? My first big investment. I told my husband, I said, listen, I said, because, and I'm not saying that you should do this. So be clear, okay? I'm not telling you to go do this. I don't want you to be out here being divorced, okay? But we made I made an investment and I just don't ask for permission. I go ahead and do what I need to do. And
Mhm.
so I did. I made the investment. It was a 25K investment. And and I told the guy, I said, listen, I said, if my husband is upset about this, I said, you know what's gonna happen? I said, I'm gonna come live with you and your wife. And he said, okay, you can come and live with us. And so then I went downstairs and I told my husband, I said, this is what happened. This is what I did. And he said, if you going to see live with somebody else, you need to pack my bag. So I'm going to. I said, okay, all right, we in this together. Okay, okay. And so then what happened was, fast forward, we implemented the systems, we implemented the business, and we grew to be successful. I doubled my current income within 6 months of that. And so then I was ready to quit. And
Mhm.
so I told my husband, I said, I'm ready to quit. And I've always been financially savvy. One of the things, and I think that this is one of the things that people underrate, okay? Because people are always so mad about having financial challenges. Listen, just learn from your financial challenges, okay?
Mhm.
That's the biggest
Mhm.
thing. And so
Yep.
people get pissed off because they got these financial challenges. When I was younger, had I not had these financial challenges, I would not be as financially savvy as I am now. Okay. I wouldn't know the language of money. I wouldn't know how to talk about money, right? I wouldn't know that I need to talk about money in order to make more money, right?
Mhm.
Because I would not have had the financial challenges. But when I was younger, we come home in the middle of the night, like the lights was out, and I was like, "Woo, what's going on here?" Right? And we
Mhm.
lived at the lake, and so like dark. Like it won't like, you had city lights around. It was dark
Yeah.
everywhere. And
Yeah.
and I remember going to this lady, I remember going to this financial place and the financial place, they where we're going to consolidate our cards, and she was just incredibly mean. I remember walking out of that place, and I remember with my baby in my arms, and I was just crying,
Mm.
crying like I couldn't, like it was just. And now I see it, hindsight is 2020, and I see it as she was just prejudiced at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, that's what it
um
sounds like.
but but I just it was the thing that really helped me to be like, I ain't gonna be in that situation no more. You can be
Yeah.
purchased all you want to.
Yep. Yep.
I'm gonna
And
be okay.
and that probably happened because you didn't talk about this type of stuff with your parents, right?
Well, I don't
Like
think
you.
so. I think that you had parents that were entrepreneurs, right? And they understood. I didn't understand money. Like I
That's what
didn't
I'm saying.
understand.
So going back to your point of making sure that your spouse, making sure that you understand their upbringing, right? Because your
Mhm.
relationship with money starts before you become an adult. It
Facts.
starts with what you see happening in the conversations that are happening in your house. And so I just wanted to come back to that with your example right there, because you're financially literate now. You have the right financial literacy because of what you went through early in your adult life.
Mhm.
If you had a spouse now that had never gone through anything and still wasn't financially literate, that would present a challenge for you. So even if they never went through anything or didn't have an upbringing of talking about it, understanding their background helps you understand them better. And then from there helps you understand the conversations that you guys need to have and how you need to have them. Because maybe you need to take your spouse to the, some people don't like to listen to their spouse, right? Just like some kids don't like to listen to their parents. But if Joe Blow over there says it, we're going to be like, you know what? Yeah, I need to do X, Y, and Z. It just is what it is. Okay. We keeps it real over here. So some people may need to take that, have that third person come. Maybe for whatever reason, they're like, are you sure, we need to be talking about money like this? No, maybe you need to have that other person in there to say, these are some of the things that you guys can be looking at. These are the things that you should, whatever. But the point is understanding your person, your spouse, your potential spouse, their upbringing in relation to money is critical whenever it comes to being in business. Whether you guys are in the business together, because how is one person in business and one person, I don't understand that dynamic, but that's neither here nor there. But whether you're in it together, whether you're not, whether one person is in it, it still will help you guys so much in your relationship. So
And I think understanding what that looks like, because and understanding, I think having the money conversation prior to you getting married is huge.
oh yes,
Like,
absolutely. Please
don't
don't wait until
don't
you're already in
please
a contract. Okay, and now you want to be like, so what you think we should do about money? No, 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 we ain't doing that.
no, no. That's gonna
That's
that's
not how
gonna end
this
up
works.
bad. What's the name?
It needs to
I
be
have
within the first few dates. I'm sorry. Some people may disagree, but you date to marry, right? You date with
right.
intentions, you date to marry. So that needs to be within the first 5 dates. Like, okay, let's have this money conversation. Not necessarily how much you make, how much I make, but we need to talk about how you think about money and how I think about money. That's an early
Mhm.
on thing. If y'all get into
Yeah.
the altar and you ain't had that conversation, Lord Jesus, what's going on?
Let me tell you something. There was recently, and this person I don't really know, but apparently they got to the altar, and the venue itself was 10, I want to say it was $10,000. Okay.
Mm.
Which is, I mean, to each his own. Like literally, you do what you want to do with your money, okay? But I mean, if I'm gonna spend
Yeah.
$10,000, it's gonna be in somebody's country, okay? It's gonna be outside of the US, all right? And it ain't gonna be spent on a day at a place, okay? But then it's just another day. This is just me, okay? It's just me. I'm I'm bougie on a budget, okay? Is what I am, all right? Just not gonna spend $10,000 on no place, right? Because way back when Brianna, she was like, listen, this was back in 1996, and she was like, at that time we had no money, okay, none, all right, none, and she said, I want to spend $70 on a dress. I said, a dress that you gonna have wear one day? Nope, we ain't gonna do that. We're going to go over here and go and spend this $30 on this dress, okay? All right. And it seems meanwhile
Meanwhile, my
what?
child running around telling people it's just $5,000. Like, oh, it
I
costs
mean,
$5,000.
now they can have that
Yeah.
conversation.
Oh, it's $5,000.
But
Like, please don't say that to people.
the grandchildren can have that conversation, okay? But the children definitely could have that conversation. I was like, you lost your mind. And so anyway, they were supposed to spend $10,000 on this venue, and so the wife thought that the husband had everything all together. Well, he didn't have
Mhm.
enough money to pay the photographer. He didn't have enough money to pay the caterer. So they didn't have the caterer didn't show up because he didn't have enough money. She had no idea that these
See what I'm saying? You see,
ain't nowhere in the world.
first
You know what I
5 dates. If y'all out there who's listening, please, I'm sorry, V. Whoever's out there listening, if you're single, you're an entrepreneur looking to be an entrepreneur, and you plan on dating, which you shouldn't plan on being single. The Lord didn't put us here to go through life on our own. So you should get out there. First 5 dates. Okay, even if it's number 5, please, for the love of God, have in your head. Dr. Jami told me first 5 dates, so I can't be going to no altar, not understanding finances and our financial decision making with somebody that I'm about to spend the rest of my life with. That's absurd.
I don't understand it, and I've never really understood that. I've never really understood people not having the conversation about money. Like, what are we talking about? What we talking about, going to the next
People don't
party?
have
Like,
yeah, that's what I was just about to say. People, you'd be surprised. There are a lot of people who don't have big life conversations. There's sometimes people who get married and they haven't even had the conversation of if they want to have kids or not. And so it's like, what were you guys doing whenever you guys were dating? Everybody's just running around having fun, YOLO, whatever. I mean, Taco Tuesday, margarita. I don't understand. What did And so
and then
for
get mad
me,
because the person don't want to have any children or don't want to have this big life that you want to have, right? But you never had the conversation about it.
exactly. Now they're mad. Now they're like, oh my God, I can't believe. Like, wait, it's both of you guys' responsibility to bring up this conversation. But
Right.
we've talked about this before. So for me, it's even hard for me to have friendships with people who aren't entrepreneurs, because the mindset and the way you speak and the things people talk about. I have this one friend, I love her to death, but sometimes she'll just text me like nonstop. I'm like, girl, you're at work. Ain't you supposed to be doing work? I'm busy. It is like, like a couple of days later, I hadn't heard from you. You've been texting me all day about stupid stuff. Like, I don't say that to her, but I'm like, I can't do stuff like that. So I bring that up because even in friendships, for me, it's hard because I'm not going to sit around and talk about love and hip hop, reality, whatever show. Not going to be sitting around talking about let's go to the hookah bar. I'm not sitting around talking about somebody else. Oh, did you see this neighbor? Blah, blah, blah. No, I'm not going to do that. We ain't doing that over here. I have better things to fill my mind with. My mind space and my time are so valuable. So I'm not going to be doing that, even on a friend level, let alone on a relationship level.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And it's important. It's important for you because, and you are so right. And it's not, I don't think it's okay for me if they are not entrepreneurs, but they just have to have the mentality of, this is not where we're staying. They have to have the drive that this is where we're going. This is, it's not going to look the same in 5 years as it does right now. They have to
Yeah.
have that drive. And I think one of the things that I struggle with the most, and probably, probably going to get, people going to be mad at me about this, but it is what it is. But in the spiritual community, in the Christian community, that there's a lot of that. It's a lot of talking about stuff that just absolutely does not make sense. Like,
Don't matter.
listen,
Yeah.
I can't,
Yeah.
I cannot. Now we talking
Yeah.
about the Lord, yes, okay. We're talking about the Lord, but if we ain't talking about the Lord, then no, I don't want to talk about that other stuff. Okay, I'm uninterested. All
Right.
right, uninterested. So
Exactly.
takes
Exactly. Somebody sent me a message and said, look this up. And it was something. And I sent them back, I'm not looking that up. And they got mad at me.
what you mad at me
You
for?
mad at
Like,
me? Like, oh my God, I can't believe you said that. And I'm just like, what am I gonna look this up for? Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But so that's why, yeah, I mean, and it's not that I don't have friends that aren't entrepreneurs, but those friendships are harder for me to cultivate, especially in the
yeah.
beginning stages. Like, of course, people who are ready, but it's just hard because, like you said, that mindset, that's the thing. It's not whether they are or aren't an entrepreneur, it's the mindset, especially about money.
And I think one of the things that I appreciate about you most is that, and I had to say this out loud, is that I appreciate how you open up the mindset, even of me, right? We've always, you've all like, you'll say something, and I'll be like, I didn't even think about it that way. And literally, I'll change whatever I'm doing, and I'll be like, okay, because it makes much more sense, right? And so that's the science of the
Mhm.
proximity, the power in the proximity, and the power of your environment. You're the sum total of the 5 people you hang out with the most. And if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah.
And so I'm very intentional about not being the smartest person in the room. Very intentional about
Right.
understanding that if I'm the smartest person in the room, then my level can only go but so far, and understanding that cultivating
Right.
who I am is very different than cultivating, and I don't know if you know this, okay? But I'm gonna tell you anyway. So I got demoted, okay, like years
Okay.
ago, right? And I got demoted because I was all about when you first one of the things that I noticed about nursing is that they will promote the person who is the best nurse. And the reality is that what you have to understand is that you don't promote the person that's the best nurse, you promote the person that's the best leader. It's two different skill sets.
Mhm.
Being a good nurse is
Yeah.
one thing, being a good leader is two different things. And so,
Right.
anyway, they would promote me, promote me, promote me. And it was because my numbers were always good. And then what happened was I then ended up having, um, I then ended up being struggling with, leadership because they just don't like me. But that's just because my numbers were good. Well, then they
Mhm.
changed it from
Yeah.
leadership and promotion to peer promotion, and then they demoted my hind parts. I was like, they don't like me. Like, what is going on? Why don't they like me? And then I figured out that I needed to change who I was because John Maxwell talks
Right.
about the law of the lid, right? The law of the lid says that, if your leader is a 4, then you can only go to a 3. If your leader is an 8, you can only go to a 7. And so you have to be very
Yep.
intentional about your inner self and understanding that. And I think the best thing that I could have done, the number one thing that I did that was the best thing that I could have done was that I decided that it was not about the external, it was about the internal. And so I didn't say, well, they just didn't like me and then move it forward. What I said was, what
Mm.
about you is making them demote you? And then I started my
Mm.
leadership journey and I read the book, and it was a book, and the law of the lid. One of the things that he talked about was that this guy he would sit down with leaders all over the world, and he would pay him $100 to sit down with him, and he would have a conversation with him. And one of the things that the guy said, he revamped resorts, and he said, what are some of the things that you would do whenever you go into revamping these resorts? He said, I would do two things. He said, I would train the customer service staff. And he said, thing number two is I would fire the CEO. And John was like, you said what now?
Mm.
He said, I would fire the CEO. And he said, because it's the law of the lid. As a leader, you cannot go any further than who that leader is. so he would fire the CEO each time.
Yep.
So that
Yep.
that's huge. That's huge for sure.
And
Now,
speaking of the law of the lid, there must be a lag. Can you hear me?
yeah, okay, I got you. Uh-huh.
And speaking of the law of the lid, so going back to the example that I gave earlier about the CEO, and she's there FaceTiming with the grandkids and whatnot. I was on track to be the CEO of a hospital, right? But that was a lid. And that's what I had to realize. Like, yes, that's something that a lot of people would try to attain, right? But what I realized is even at that level, I'm still capped financially. I still don't have the freedom. So instead of focusing on being a CEO over here, let me now go over here to these businesses again that I was already running and just focus on being the CEO over there. I just need to be my own
Yeah,
CEO
that's right.
and create
That's right.
multiple streams of revenue so that I'm good, financially.
I love that. I love that. Now, the last question. What would you tell your younger self about ambition and happiness?
I would try to encourage myself to have as much confidence as possible. When I was younger, my parents weren't the ones that were entrepreneurs. It was my grandfather. So my folks were teenage parents,
Oh,
and
gotcha.
they were just trying to make it through life. My dad was in the military. It was whatever. I'm not saying anything bad about them, but the encouragement wasn't there. Like they weren't focused on making me a good person and making sure that I was whole, as a person. It was just like, you just raise your kid, right? Make sure you got food, clothes, go places, whatever. And
Mm,
so since I didn't have that coming up, I had to seek that on my own once I started to
mm,
get, of a certain age. And so looking back, I always say this, I wish I would have had the courage to continue on the path that I was on, because my first degree was a business degree. It wasn't nursing. And I wish I would have had the courage to continue on the path that I was on. Degree or no degree, that's not the thing I'm getting at, but I wasn't strong enough mentally and confidently enough to go out and try to, start a business and try to do my own thing at that time. And I wish I would have had the courage to do so. And I wish I could go back and tell myself, I promise you it's going to be okay. You're going to make some mistakes along the way, learn from those mistakes. But that's really one of the things that I would really tell my younger self. See, when I was little, mistakes equaled catastrophic things, in my house. Like I wouldn't hear the end of it, and I'm talking about little mistakes. So nobody taught me that it was okay to make a mistake and just to learn from it and grow from it. It was just, this appearance of you have to be perfect. And so I would definitely try to encourage myself, give myself a little bit more confidence and say, it's okay. You're going to make the mistakes. Just learn from it and keep pushing, honestly. What
but
about
I
you?
really I think that what you said is very true, but I think that it comes from identity, right? Because,
Right.
once you got the nursing degree, then your identity changed, right?
It
And
did
for me,
change. Yeah.
listen, let me tell you something. My identity changed once I got that doggone DNP. I was like, because I thought DNP was gonna open up some doors. I was like, so
Right.
you mean to tell me I done went back to school and I done got this degree, and that doesn't guarantee me a spot at the table? Do you mean that doesn't guarantee that I'm going to go and be the CNO? You mean to tell me that? Oh,
Mhm.
the devil? We ain't gonna keep doing this right here. Because this is the devil incarnated. Okay, reincarnated. I am not gonna keep staying up in here. No way. But I think one of the things that I think that one of the things that I would tell my younger self, and I think that once I let me go back to the DMP. I think my identity changed because I honestly, and I don't know why, I just honestly thought that there was something that people who had a doctorate degree that they knew more because it was only 3% of them, right? They got to know more. They got to know way
Mhm.
more. And then I was like,
Mhm.
and it was so clear to me one day while I was going through it because I thought it would open up doors and then I would automatically make more money. And this lady came to the emergency department looking disheveled, and she could have had a lot of money, okay, but she didn't look like she had a whole lot of money. But she was looking disheveled, and she had a doctorate degree. And I was like, well, what's going on here? Like, you you don't have a lot of money because you got the degree, so you should have a lot of money. Like, I didn't know. I was clueless about that thing. And then when I found out that it wasn't gonna open them doors, I was like, y'all can keep this right here. And so then I knew that I
Mhm.
had to change because I knew that I was good at what I did. If I took it on, then I was going to make it happen. And it was nothing, we're going to get it done. Now, the thing that I would tell my younger self about ambition and happiness is that you I feel like ambition is something that you are achieving on a regular basis. Like, the only thing that changes about the goal, the only changes that changes about what you do every day is the goal, right? The goal, once you hit
Mm,
the goal, the only thing that changes is the goal. Okay. It changes the
right,
goal of how high you're
right.
gonna go. And so I think
Yep.
one of the things that I would tell myself is, number one, to think a lot bigger than what I originally
Yes.
thought. Like, I originally thought, well, we
Mhm,
just gonna get to these six figures and we're gonna be good. Well, you get into six figures and you got a team, you got all
mm.
these systems, you got all this stuff. Six figures is not enough, right? And so those are the things that
Right.
I would
That's still be gone with your overhead.
these are the things that I would tell myself. And so that I would tell myself, but I would also tell myself that happiness and ambition, like, they're kind of two separate things. Your happiness has
Oh,
to do with who you are. It
we
is
we're not
nothing,
mm,
like, they're not combined. You can't tie your happiness to how much money you make. You have to tie your happiness to who you
mm-mm.
are internally, and every day waking up being grateful. Being grateful is probably one of the most underrated things that people can do. I am very grateful. I'm
Yeah,
grateful that God woke me up
yeah,
this morning. I'm grateful that I'm able to walk. I'm grateful. People get all tore out their frame, but being grateful for the things that are under $10 is huge.
yeah.
Huge.
And you hit the nail on the head when you said, ambition and happiness aren't tied to each other, because they're really not. Because once you've reached a certain amount of money, more than likely you're going to want more.
Right.
You're going to open your eyes to it's going to open your eyes to want more, right? So, but what I will say, I agree 100%. Ambition and happiness is not tied to money. Happiness can be tied to freedom. However much
Facts.
freedom you have, you get to
Facts.
feel happier because you're in control, right? When someone else is controlling your everyday, you have to be here at 8 o'clock. You have to do faxes and this and that and that. And I'm not saying that nobody should work a traditional job. If that's what you
Right.
want, if that's what you feel is happy and you're making however much you're making, that's perfect. But the more freedom you have, I can guarantee you the more happier you will feel.
Facts. Facts. Let me tell you, it
Mm.
is the bomb.com. Okay, it's the bomb.com. Anyway, it's been a pleasure. It's been always a pleasure having these conversations on Wednesday night. So join us every Wednesday night for these conversations. Nurses creating fortunes. We're gonna have a whole branding. It's gonna be a whole thing here shortly. So we look forward to chatting with everyone. And you, ladies and gentlemen, have an amazing rest of your day. Now, follow us, like, share, comment. Just give us some ideas on the things that you would like to hear from two nurses who have been in business, who have created a substantial amount of income in business revenue, and who has been doing amazing with it and love it every day. All right, you guys have an amazing rest of your day. We'll
Love
talk to
it.
you later. Bye.
Have a good weekend.